and I hope you are enjoying this time of darkening and sinking in to the deep soulfulness that is the solstice, the deep reset, according to many older calendar systems that are connected to natural rhythms and cycles of the earth. I am going to let myself riff for a short bit in today's video on this theme of embracing limbo and the liminal. I love the word liminal. I'm finishing up Bill Plotkin's book on soul initiation, and it's such a resonant and validating piece of text that reflects in many ways the deeper work of the nervous system as I know it. There is, of course, a lot out there in terms of regulating the nervous system or hacking the nervous system or whatnot. But my approach is really on actually being in awe of the incredible wisdom that is the nervous system in the same way that I am in awe of nature, of fractals, of the biological systems that are somehow so finely ordered and mesmerizing and know how to go through all the ups and downs of history while maintaining a sense of rhythmicity and selfhood, you could even say. And there's a way of working with this wisdom as a sort of a steward of it, as a shepherd of it, as a midwife of it, as a doula of it, as one who is in reverence to it, which in my experience yields much deeper, much richer, and much more sustainable and incredible tasting fruits um, in the long run when sunk into as a process and a journey than doing simple techniques to hack. No judgment of that. Or, stimulate the vagus nerve or do breath work or like everything has its place. And there are tools that sort of fall under the bucket of, okay, when we are listening to this deeper wisdom, which is much more wise than anything that our analytical mind can come up with, what now? What tool is appropriate for this season of my life? What tool is appropriate today? What tool is appropriate this week? Right? That's unique and patterned, unique and patterned, just as nature is unique and patterned. And so I want to speak to this limbo and this liminal space today because we are in it. Can you feel it? Can you feel that softening, deepening, thickening? It might have different flavors if you're in the southern hemisphere where you're actually going into the summer solstice, the right, like high energy versus the deep sinking energy. It's interesting because in his book, Bill Plotkin actually talks about our encounter with our soul, not as happening on the other side of our descent in our dissolution or our dismembering of our ego. It's not what you have, it's not the end of the journey. It's actually right smack dab in the middle. It's right when you arrive, like at the bottom of that dark crevasse, that dark cavern, that dreamscape shadow space is where we can encounter soul. Sometimes there is fear. A lot of the protector parts in us can kind of get a little bit on edge in the darkness uh, because, well, their job is to protect us from change and danger, and they equate change with danger. Um, but this is a time when we are invited to practice courage, to surrender to something greater. And it's possible to make an intention that the change that happens be one that is deeply meaningful, deeply soulful, integrous, evolutionary, organizing, a change that is going to bring us more alive and more healed and more whole and bring more aliveness and more wholesomeness to the world. It's good to hold that container, that stability, that containment, that prayer as we enter such liminal spaces and times. But the courage is in actually letting go of the part of us that would control and try to manipulate that into happening, try to coerce that into happen, analyze that into happening, and plan that into happening, force it into happening. It's actually a being happened to by a benevolent, mysterious force, which is the same benevolent, mysterious force which also allows us to breathe and digest our food and take in the senses of the world, take in the flavors of the world through our senses, that moves us when we hear music that brings tears to our eyes, or the particular look on a loved one's face, perhaps, that touches us deeply. You know, it's unique what might trigger that in each of us. But that's my invitation to you in this liminal space that is solstice, is to feel into what in your life and world, what comes to mind right now? What comes to mind perhaps in your imagery, perhaps in your felt sense, your emotional world, or even your body's wisdom, sensation, even in the room that you're in, as you contemplate this question, what comes to your attention? What is your relationship with the mysterious, benevolent force which wants to change each of us in a good way, in the same way that a caterpillar is changed in the cocoon to become a butterfly? In the same way, a fetus is changed in the womb to become a human that can breathe on its own and has a voice. To the same way that the soil and the sunshine and the water and the rain and the minerals in the soil nourish the seed and change the seed to give it what it needs to start to feel its way toward what it might become on the other side of the darkness. I mean, it doesn't have to have a name. Some people call it God or spirit or universe, the great intelligence, or maybe scientific idea, maybe a Buddhist idea, maybe Indra's net, maybe a poetic idea, a mythopoetic idea, a mystical idea. It doesn't have to have a name. The importance is, what is my relationship with that which wants to support me to become the next beautiful evolutionary aspect of myself? So I'll leave you with that and wish you many numinous blessings on your dream time, both sleeping dreams and waking dreams during this time of the winter solstice. And I'll see you on the other side. Oh, and of course, if you want any support and mentoring as you make your way through these times, feel free to reach out for a somatic session. I'm at enteringstream.com, and below is a link for a free somatic alchemy assessment.